Well, welcome to the Find the Spark Within podcast. My name is Kristen Collins, and I am genuinely inspired to have a conversation with my dear friends, Kara and Tracy, the founders and co-creators of Soul Happy and the Mind Pod. Thank you so much for the opportunity to connect with you.
Thanks for having us, Kristen.
We are launching at this moment our movement of root cause healing. And it is an honor and pleasure to be working with you as well as Maria through HeartMath and also NeuroChange Solutions as we offer not just our region in Southwest Florida, but also the world the opportunity to pause and reconnect. And today's conversation will be about Soul Happy and your why behind Soul Happy, but also innovations and mindfulness. You guys are thought leaders. You're bringing forth stuff that is not mainstream, not in everyday conversations. And when we land this plane together today, I want for us to all understand what you're doing and why you're doing it and how you think that can help us heal, thrive, and be well. Awesome. Yay! So, Kara, I'd love to start with you, if I may. Okay. And can you just give us a brief synopsis of your background and why Soul Happy?
Okay, so like Tracy, I'm a psychotherapist. We say we are a seasoned, when we do these talks, we say we are seasoned, middle-aged, frustrated psychotherapist. And
no wonder why I wanted to interview you.
She's like,
It's a little past middle age, but yeah.
But the point is that we are have been in this field for decades, and we both met years ago in a quest to find out different ways of working with our clients. At the time, we were both in private practice.
What wasn't working?
So it's not about not working.
Okay.
It's more about exploring ways for people to empower themselves for change, rather than a therapist. You know, I had clients that were coming in I'm talking as a, but I know would say the same. We have clients coming in every week, what do I do? What do I do? And
Blah, blah, blah. Right? I mean, we were doing old-fashioned talk therapy.
So we met at a training, and we said, you know what? We're so like-minded. We should work together and forming something different.
Beautiful.
You know, imagine being in a field and doing something one way, literally for, 20 years, doing it one way, feeling like there were some limitations. Like Kara said, it wasn't bad or wrong, but there were limitations. And I was getting frustrated, wishing I could move people through a little quicker. So, I just kind of went out there to see what else is out there and imagine, just how it would feel to find in a similar field that they had all these breakthroughs, and it was in the field of neuroscience. And these breakthroughs all of a sudden allowed those of us in the field of changing behavior, the breakthroughs were allowing me to look at it a whole new way and to address it. So imagine just, after years and years of doing it one way, realizing there's something new out there. I had a whole new, at that point I was getting a little bit frustrated, and I was going to go like open a dress boutique or something and just get out of the field. And instead I'm like, okay, this is refreshing. It's awesome. Most important, it's actual science. This is science now. And what we were doing before, not that it really wasn't science, but we were like, we kind of felt like we had an aha moment of like, wow, have us therapists been dealing with the wrong part of the mind all these years? And so that's kind of, then we just dove in. There was no turning back.
Yeah, it's exploring the subconscious mind as opposed to the conscious mind.
Right.
Right. To definitely dive into that for sure. And I think what resonates is there's a lot of folks today who are at that cadence of same old, same old. They're waking up every day. They're like, seriously, this is it? And, there has to be more. So you guys went through that literally to create this new movement called Soul Happy. So tell us, what's the difference between the traditional way of doing psychotherapy and the Soul Happy technique? Give us the secret sauce.
Okay. You want to dive in, and I'll jump in too.
So we were trained in a lot of this understanding of brainwave states, how we can, the concept of neuroplasticity, and with different thought leaders in that area. Dr. Joe Dispenza is one of them, but there's others that we were studying at the time. And we were working with a group of people for not so much in the psychotherapeutic realm, but we were looking at a group of realtors, for instance, in Orlando, and we were looking at their productivity and how we could take them to a whole nother level with these concepts. Mm-hmm. And so we found out that we had tremendous results. And we said, and Tracy and I looked at each other one day and we said, you know what? This is like, this could be something we could teach to groups rather than to just one-on-one, which was taking a long time and effort on our part. We were like, we can do this. So we actually decided to release we worked and wrote a book on this topic, and it's called The Soul Happy Book. And we ended up developing a series of videos that people could download that would stream online. So that's the Soul Happy technique, which is a 4-session technique that is downloadable for people that we did this years ago, but we have people that are all over the world that have done Soul Happy technique with great results.
Is it legal for you to tell us what the 4 steps of the techniques are?
Of course. So the secret sauce, it's pretty cool. So what it is there's 4 sessions. And everything's like only half an hour long. We don't go out.
I like this. This is
first session is the education of how the mind stores and processes memories and how that like screws us up. How it kind of dictates our behavior. So we just kind of get people bought into like how their mind works. If you guys ever done something, you're like, did I just say that? Or like, what the hell? What made me do that? It's because of the program that's running that is often just a reaction to something. So we kind of explain how that works. It's not that there's anything wrong with you. It's just the way your experiences have accumulated and added up in your subconscious mind, and then we just respond. So we explain that in session 1. Session 2 is we now know how to go to where the memories are stored. And this was the real breakthrough that Kara was referring to, that we now know that the memories are stored in the subconscious mind. We now understand that we can access those memories, and it's through getting to these brainwave states. It happens to be the alpha brainwave state that allows you to get right to the cusp of the subconscious. We now understand how they're stored. They're stored in the form of an electric energy, as is measured by EEGs, and we know how to work with energy now. So we do these exercises that help clear out all the negativity that's built up. And what happens in these clearing exercises is you don't lose the memory. What happens is we call it like we just kind of scramble the way the emotions that are attached to the memory. We kind of scramble that energetic frequency, so it just kind of loses its charge. So that's the clearing. Once we clear out some of that negative buildup, that's the neuroplasticity part. You're clearing that out. Then we have a meditation that is what we kind of call it getting to the superconscious. That's kind of more of a psychological term, though. What we really do is get you to, your core, yourself, your authentic self, your God self, whatever you call that part of you that existed before, or that does exist before all of that programming took place in the first place. So we get you in touch with the part of you that is your best self, and where all your strengths exist, like in their highest form. Then, and this is our favorite, this is number 4, this is like the cream of the whole thing, is we then reprogram positivity after we had done that clearing out, because that's neuroplasticity. Once we realize that those neuronal clusters of memories can be disassembled and then we can like rewire and make a new combination of connections neuronally, then that's when we realized we can actually reprogram positivity. So that's the 4 sessions in a nutshell.
So I just marvel, as this is relatively new information to me. I won't tell you what decade I'm in, but I'm past halfway through this go round. And how come we're not all talking about this? This is so exciting. The fact that we choose ways of being that we're not even aware of because it's coming from our subconscious minds. We have the potential and the opportunity to pause, address, release, and then rewire for whatever it is we want to experience. I just find it,
right?
Yeah, I find it so intriguing that this isn't the cocktail conversation or the nail salon conversation. So I'm so grateful that you guys are bringing it forward. On your journey, how are you finding momentum? How are you finding spreading this message?
So we began doing workshops in various parts, fun locations, resorts, and all kinds of. So we were asked. Yeah, Turks and Caicos was a blast. We had fun there. So we've done some workshops over the years. COVID set us back. It's not what, and that hasn't been everybody in the world. But one thing about Tracy and I is this is our life's work. This is not something that we have ever looked at each other and said we've done, or this is not worth fighting for the same reasons that you just mentioned. Because psychotherapy, traditional talk therapy, everything that we're trained to do and therapists are still being trained to do has its limitations. And if this knowledge can become mainstream among therapists, among lay people, among healthcare providers, among first responders, if it can become, that would be our dream, that could become mainstream conversation, and we'd love for it if they go into a pod and really learn more about it, because of course that creates a movement where, for instance, an emergency room physician, if he's going to walk into a pod with all of his colleagues watching him do it and say, I've got to go take 10 minutes and de-stress so that I can be a better physician, who wouldn't find that appealing? And yet I think there is a stigma associated with asking and getting help. So would be our dream to see that stigma go away. And people could actually walk into a pod if that, pods are great because, a broom closet isn't always.
She's referring to the broom closet because we were working with this healthcare company and they said, well, we do have a place for the nurses to go and de-stress. And so we're like, well, that's awesome. You guys do seem a little ahead of the game here. And then we found out it was literally a broom closet with a chair in it. And they're like, so they get their space. They can go in there. They can close the door.
They could sweep.
Hope somebody doesn't need to come get Clorox. So there isn't a space for people to go and just de-stress. So the whole idea of the pod was birthed after doing enough of these workshops and realizing, okay, well, this is really great information. How do we get that into the workplace? How do we get that into places that need it the most? And so that's when, that's where the whole idea of the pod came about.
Well, it's an honor and a privilege to host on your world tour, your pod. I'm like, it's pretty wonderful. And the fact that you're offering it complimentary to Southwest Florida, especially after all this region has been through, it's super appreciated. I would love for you to take a moment, maybe Trish, you could dive into this, about you came up with this concept, no broom closet. We want a dedicated, beautiful space for people to catch their breath and de-stress. The modern day smoke break. Right. I love that. Walk me through what the process for creating that was, because that's a monster. That's a huge task.
Yeah. So, I mean, initially we had great support. The idea was birthed as we were kind of brainstorming with this healthcare company that we were working with in Florida, And we kind of thought we were going to get like some help, that they were going to develop it with us. And so it didn't feel so overwhelming, and we were pretty excited. Well, then when the pandemic hit, the hospital just had to shift its gears. This got put on pause. That was understandable. But then also, which was the double whammy for us, was their CEO, who this was really a passion project for it, ended up leaving. He's now in California continuing this type of work. And, you know, right, they're like out there, they're doing stuff like this. But the new CEO, who we've heard is great, it's just not on his radar. So Karen and I decided we're just going to continue undertaking, developing the pod ourselves. So we did that. And, you know, we're pretty proud of the prototype that came out of it. There's things that we would tweak now and do a little differently, but that's the point of this beta testing period, is we can get feedback from people. You know, try this, try that. And I love that we've actually heard quite a bit tonight already of ideas people have. So that's awesome. But yeah, we just kind of did this undertaking. And then to have, you know, someone like you say, well, how about like this might be a good place for it to, this is the second on its little world tour, as you call it. You know, because anyway, it wasn't the easiest thing to do. Yeah. But Karen and I, you know, like she said, the whole thing about maybe trying to destigmatize mental health, and as therapists, I mean, I've been doing this since the 80s, to now think of it not really as working with mental illness, but really we're just working with everybody, because everybody's got stress. So we kind of see this as mental fitness, mind fitness, whatever kind of word you want to use, and just forget about mental illness. I don't mean that as dramatic as that sounds, but you know what I mean? Just, yeah. Can we just give you guys a round? Woo! Thank you. Oh. Thank you.
Thank you for that. That was so authentically beautiful. So one of the things that intrigues me and I love about you, there's many things I love about you, but one of the things is you can address mental illness all the way to optimal performance or optimal well-being, and anywhere on the spectrum. And I think anyone who's connecting to this message can cite a time in their lives where they were down on their knees, you know, their dark night of the soul, all the way to, I want to up-level my game.
Right.
So this is a tool that we can all enjoy. And to your point, can we shift the conversation of one of shame to one of celebration? Like, I'm working on my mental health.
Right.
And I'm now understanding that I have some things that are stuck that I'm not aware of, that I can pause, say thank you for visiting. It's been a great journey. I'm going to release you with love. I'm going to allow you to come through me, and I'm going to exhale you out. And this is where I want to go with you guys, because I didn't get this part until very recently. Then I want to rewire for positivity. Today we're talking about mindful innovation. And pretty much my whole journey, it's been letting go, let go, let go, let go. But recently I started connecting with, but then replace.
Right.
Oh, mind blowing. Can you talk to me a little bit about how do you replace? What are you replacing? What is that about?
This is our favorite. This is our favorite. This is the secret. This is the good stuff. Well, so yeah. So for years doing traditional talk therapy for all those years, in the 80s, it was real common to do positive affirmations with people. 90s, really, right. That's just a big part of psychotherapy. So look, positive affirmations has its place, but it's missing something that allows it to be sustainable. I had this woman, I'll just tell you a case study real quick, and then you can jump into really what Kristen was asking. So this woman came in, and she, she was like in her 30s. She was gorgeous, but she had a really low self-esteem. And so we're working on, okay, we're going to do some positive affirmations. Here's what you do. You come up with a mantra, I am beautiful, and you say it 20 times in front of the mirror in the morning and at night. And you have to, make eye contact with yourself in the mirror when you say it. And so she does it. She comes in, the first week, okay, she continues to do it. The second week she comes in, how are your positive affirmations going? She's like, that's just bullshit. I'm not even doing it anymore. Like, she looked at me like, you're just, she looked at me like, thanks for nothing, And I said, well, what's going on? She said, when I look in the mirror and I'm saying you are gorgeous, I'm like, it's just not true. I mean, that was her whole point for coming in, right? So she's kind of like negative talking what she's trying to do. So if I had known then what I know now, that what was happening is she's using her conscious mind to look in the mirror and say, you are beautiful. And her subconscious mind is in the background going, oh, no, you're not. And I didn't know then that I could go to the subconscious mind, because guess what was programmed in her subconscious mind? An entire upbringing of a super negative father. And for some reason, for her, he focused on her weight, her looks, her height, that was what was programmed. So now I would know, go in, clear out that programming, and then reprogram for positivity. And you can use positive affirmations then if you're working with the subconscious. Now now this is science. So
we developed in our session 4 that we're referring to, which was our own secret sauce, where we program through the senses. So we all take in information into our subconscious mind by our senses. And everybody's nodding, so they know this. So Tracy and I decided, okay, well, when we started this working with clients one-on-one, okay, let's try a scent. So we developed in our session 4 the ability to use a scent. And so we have peppermint, because peppermint is one of those that stimulates hippocampus for men. So we were able to use a scent. We have a little box that we developed. Everybody that we've done workshops with has a box, and in that is a little scent that we use. So that's for instance, a scent. We use the sense touch. So we have a meridian point that we use, and this is all programmed in this session 4 when we work with the groups that we work with.
we have a visual.
We have a symbol, which we've developed, and then we have a mantra, which we made very generalized. So I am my highest potential. So we use the word I am, because that has a powerful meaning. And then highest potential just allows for it to be very generalized. Who wouldn't want their highest potential? So in our session 4, which is our baby, no one has done this that we know of out there. In our session 4, we develop this, and that's what we do in our workshops. So we program for positivity using the senses.
And then the senses are the tool that you use for the next, 30 days, because it takes 28 days to form a habit. Those senses, you reinforce them for the next 90 days, and that's the sustainable piece that you actually are using. That's the neuroplasticity, the neuronal buildup for those particular. It's like these positive things that we program. So you come up with these super positive, awesome things that you want to happen in your life. You use the senses to program it, and then you reinforce the program through the senses.
Yep. So repetition and
exactly.
Absolutely love. And again, it was an aha for me I'm embarrassed to say very recently, that I was so concentrating on the release.
Right.
And then the reprogramming for positivity. And then when I started really understanding your work, I was like, wait, so you can bring that in and replace what you're releasing.
Right.
The other thing I find super interesting, because we all come to the same moment in time from our own different lanes and our own different experiences, and what could be an actual real positive experience for one person in the formative years could actually be something very traumatic for someone else. And so, because sometimes when I work with folks and they're like, I didn't actually have it that rough as my brain was developing. The stuff that I experienced up to 13, then all the way to 25, it really wasn't, that hard. But when I explain that there's little T's and big T's, that's something that may not have seemed like it should have been a big deal. But then sure enough, example, public speaking. I have heard through the grapevine that there's some people that don't like to public speak. I don't get that, because I just think it's the most fun thing on the planet to do. But that's very, very, yes, it really scares the heck out of lots of people. So potentially you could have been called upon as a child in front of the class to say something and you got really uncomfortable or whatever, and that can actually cement. So sometimes it's not trauma to the rate that other people may experience trauma. And I share that, and I ask this in your journey. Are you finding that the majority of people that you're working with are traumatized with big T's, or are you also being able to help people understand that mental health doesn't mean that you had to have had a traumatic experience with a big T as a child?
So, yeah,
Work with both.
we're both, and
For sure.
you know, neither one of us are working one-on-one with people anymore. So, and yeah, we had those years where we were working, and I was trained in a special area of trauma. But now, since we work with groups, I guess you could say, and I think even Maria can attest to this work. When you don't really have to identify the trauma anymore if you understand the benefits of meditation or understanding how to access those lower brainwave states. Because when you're in it, you're automatically releasing and you are allowing for these neuronal pathways to be reformed. It happens. I mean, we witnessed that, right? I mean, it's just part of it's part of the process. So I think I would say to answer your question, it's less about identifying what that trauma is. I think, we've worked with people that we've identified in the past. We worked with people that identified one particular phobia, for instance, and found that these other areas of their lives are just kind of, they let it go, and we're like,
So those neuronal pathways that form around different experiences, similar experiences that evoke similar emotions, program together, because it's an energetic frequency. Let's just say fear. Fear has its own energetic frequency. So when you experience fear, that experience gets programmed with the other fearful memories. And it could be something as simple as, you're watching a show and all of a sudden you got kind of, scared about something in the show, to something super crazy that happened to you that was super fear-based, like maybe sexual trauma. It's a similar frequency. So like we worked with a woman, it was a pretty big trauma actually. It was a fear-based trauma and she had been raped. And so we worked with her on that fear-based trauma, and she got back in touch with us a couple months later and said, I'm no longer scared of heights. What the heck? And it would make sense, because again, if this is really science, then if we just said that fear has its own frequency, then wouldn't it make sense that we worked on something and it helps something else that's in that little cluster of fear-based memories? Because we don't lose the memory, the emotion attached to it loses its charge. So anyway, there's just, that illustrates it.
Wow. And so I need a private session because my fear of heights has escalated since COVID, and it's mind blowing. I have a lot more questions, but we're in this unique position for this recording where we are actually doing this in front of a live audience of fabulous people. So I'm going to switch it up, and I would love to ask if anyone would like to ask Kara or Tracy a question before we end this podcast recording.
Jason.
Yeah, so I find myself oftentimes in spaces like this where there's very few men. And so in your work and in your practice, how have you seen the relationship of how men sort of lean into these type of conversations? And do you have advice of how either myself or other individuals in the space to start to get men to be more accepting to these ways of thinking and participating more?
I mean, it's not counted.
As well, shout out to the men who are here tonight.
Right. I mean, so to circle back, I mean, that comes back to this whole stigma issue a bit, right? And so you're a refreshing kind of like a pioneer to have to be someone who starts shifting to that lack of stigma where people are looking at this as, look, there was a period in time where people started finally going to the gym. When I say finally, where people started taking their physical health more serious. gyms started popping up. People started having gym memberships, and they started really working out for better health. We would love it if that same movement could happen for the mind and for mental health. And, the one group that we have worked with that is men is elite athletes. And they've known about mental rehearsal for 30 years. It's been around. That's actually a thing that coaches understand and know about. What would you add to that?
Yeah, to your point, wouldn't it be wonderful if we had these in first responders and fire stations? So the minute they get off a call, they say, I need 15 minutes and go in there and just de-stress. But apparently, there's not a lot of resources for them. And we used to work with something called EAP programs. A lot of you are familiar with that. So we happen to know that you can't get into many therapists. They're so booked out, and they're booked out for months. So I can't imagine that the resources for people that are in those really high pressure positions and first responders, emergency, that they have a lot of resources. I can't imagine it because they're not going to be able to get in to see a therapist, especially now with the chaos in the world right now and stress. So I would say, it's going to be a marathon, to try and create that movement for men to feel comfortable getting the help. When that'd be amazing. It's just going to take.
It's what we hope to do.
Yeah, it's going to be leadership. It's going to be people that are stepping out and making that known. Like that one hospital leader that
he was awesome.
He was able to talk about anxiety in a way that was like, look, he's like, head of a hospital corporation and he had anxiety. I think it's going to take that kind of thing.
And I think if there, if like the universe is really working energetically, that if Kara and I can keep connecting with those leaders that and some of them are male, that are going to really champion this, that's what we need. And we've run across a few.
Yeah.
But we need more.
A few.
So let's manifest some more, right?
So Jason, thank you for being one.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, so I have something interesting that I came across. My friend Barbara, she has stage 4 colorectal cancer, and she has also anxiety. So she told me, I guess it was just a week or 2 weeks ago, that she's been taking a class for neuroplasticity and also reading. And this is really quite amazing that she told me she gained 10 pounds, where when I visited her in February, she was so scary that actually it have not been over. There we keep in touch through text, and also I was out of town, but I find it amazing that when I talked to her, I don't know, I guess it was a week and a half ago or a week, 2 weeks, completely different with the way that she sounded. She sounded amazing. She didn't sound like she was sick at all. And I do believe, whether it's the mind or physics, whether it's Joe Dispenza, I don't remember, Dispenza or other, I believe it's not just the psyche, it's the physical. Everything can change. And I believe that she can prevail, she can get over this. But I was just amazed. So then I went to the library to look up things on neuroplasticity. I believe there was a book called, I don't remember exactly, I think it's Annie Hopkins or something like this. It's Rewiring the Brain, and it talks about neuroplasticity. Well, they didn't have it, so I'm going to have to either buy it or, but I can say, just hearing her and that this happened, is happening. I feel like I wish that what you're doing keeps going forward and you keep helping more and more people, because I think it's time for psychotherapy to go forward in this direction, and just dispensing medication which has dreadful side effects, that needs to stop.
Oh my God, we haven't
So,
even talked
very
about that.
Because we haven't even talked about that. I mean, there's a chemistry that takes place in the mind, a chemical change, that as you clear the mind and as you reprogram for positivity, it like the whole mind, body, spirit approach, that became a little cliched. People don't realize we literally mean the mind and the body are connected, and then you throw in the spiritual piece of the belief system. It's the biology of belief. It's an actual, like, literal thing. You know, mind, body, spirit. It's like literally, it's chemical. It's science. And science is real.
I love it. I love it.
I came across a book many years ago, and the lady has since passed away. I never got to go underneath her training, but it was called Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. Her first name is Carol, Carol, and I cannot think of her last name right now. It's just evaded me. But this lady was really, she had what you guys are doing. You're the next. You're what she sought out for individuals as a whole. What you're doing that for Carol. I hope to get her last name for you.
We're carrying the torch.
You
for people
are.
who've gone
You
before us.
really, really are. She was an amazing lady. I never got to meet her, but in spirit I did because of her work of just one book.
Right.
She did write other ones, but she was in the beginning where people thought, oh, or ooh,
Get
good.
a little back. No, it's really that. And
So in that book, it really talks it and aromatherapy. I'm an aromatherapist, and so I think that you chose peppermint. One thing I would like to add to what peppermint does emotionally, it just helps us to digest things emotionally. So it's not just about digesting food in our gut.
digestive as
It's
well.
exactly. So
Everything
everything.
gorgeous.
I think
Every
you have to have an
emotionally.
aromatherapy workshop as well.
Yeah, I would agree.
Right?
I love.
Thank
I
you
love
for
it.
that. Thank you for weighing in on that.
So, I'd like to close with our final question from Kendra, and then we're going to wrap up our podcast this evening, and we can stick around for more questions.
Just once again, thank you so much, because everything you said, especially with the brain part, I never realized, and I'll be honest, and I've been honest with everybody, when I went to Arizona, and even all of the immersion and everything we had to do, they made us watch one evening, we had to do a 2-hour video on the brain, on the education of the brain. And I thought, we've had this wonderful day and all these amazing, and I have to go watch a brain video. I will tell you, in the 6 days, that to this day is the thing that has opened me up to conversations with Kristen and Candace and Jamie and my own searching and realizing over the years, which opens Pandora's box. And that's really going to be my question to you. When you start deep diving into this and you start opening and releasing, and you don't realize how much you suppressed, compressed, repressed, like you name it. I mean, yesterday morning, I'm standing there and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my goodness, like this one incident from like 15 years ago, I had never, and I was like, oh my, I still have all these aha moments of like, that's why I reacted, you know? And it's amazing to me how the brain actually works. And like you said, I went, and this is where my question is on the Pandora's box. And also to your, people told me, stay steadfast, Kendra. The people that are not going to support you, it's because they don't understand, or they're scared, or I will even tell you personal experience. People seeing me go through facing and opening Pandora's box and willing to not give up and dredge through, I call it the shards of glass on your knees through hot coals, because it's not pretty, but it's beautiful as you work through it. It started opening things for them and they got scared. So I've lost people around me because they even admitted to me, this is too much. It's opening too much stuff from my past and I can't deal with this. So they've gone the other way. The positive is, I've never known my mom will not talk about anything from her past. She has opened up more. And and I've seen her transforming for the good. But now I understand why she couldn't give what she couldn't give, because it's generational. These are generational curses. And so until we take a stand for our own mental health and to change ourselves, those around us, our environment, it'll continue. And like you said, I mean, Jason, I give you so much credit. He and I have had so many conversations, and you were pioneering so far ahead. And kudos to you. And Kinfei, you're so vulnerable. Those things are so inspiring. But I guess that's my question is, I did the positive affirmation, and the negative comments I used to get, even from my own mother, was, how many more straws are you going to grasp? You've read 300 self-help books. You've done brain spotting. You've done EMDR. You've done RTT. You've done breath work. You've done, like, when does the money stop and when do you stop? And I said, not until it's reprogrammed. Not until it's rewired. Not until it's done. I am not going back out in the wilderness this time. I'm not going around the mountain anymore. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to live my life like this. I'm not finishing the race like this. No more. Amen. When I stood firm in that, which I've never done because I was never trained on boundaries, I didn't even know what they were. And unfortunately, I've lived my life like that. And then you have to not also be the victim. You have to start realizing the part you played, and it's not your fault. You only did as good as you could do with what you knew how to do. But it's, once you know, then it's our responsibility. And that's why I say it's been a tough 3 years, but it's worth every ounce of it. And I'm now at that point of what you're talking about, rewiring. Because and I have done the affirmations, and I have grasped at every straw humanly possible. I will tell you, Jamie, major life changer. Major life changer.
Thank you for your share. It means the world, and it's an awesome journey to share with you. I would love to know from our live audience, would you be interested in more opportunities to connect, have conversations, to have workshops, to maybe neuro change our solutions? Would that be go? I got a couple.
That was good. That was good. I like what you did there.
I'd like to thank you all for sharing this relaunch of the Root Cause Healing Movement. It's been an honor and a privilege, to launch this with you, but also to have the opportunity to reflect with you on your journeys through Soul Happy. I am very inspired, and I'm very calm because I know that this is the shift I've waited my whole life for. And it's here with you. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Oh, thank you, Chris.
So thank you, guys. Thank you.